First off, Mr. Premier, you've been at the cabinet table in the past, leader of the opposition. I'm sure you've paid more than one visit to this office, but how does it feel now, sitting here in the corner office, in the big chair, so to speak?
Look, I guess my first comment is I try to spend as little time in here as I possibly can. I think as much as possible, I certainly have some briefings here, but I'm trying to get out, working with the people. I am incredibly humbled by the opportunity to sit in the people's chair, the Woodstock Riding's chair in the legislature, and to serve as Premier of New Brunswick. As far as this office specifically, it's an incredible opportunity and experience that I take very seriously, but most of my time is outside the office here on the second floor.
What has the biggest change been for you?
Look, ultimately the buck stops here, and before, when I had an opportunity to be part of government, both on the backbench and in cabinet, I certainly was very engaged. But this is different. The same thing in my role as opposition. I think the amount of public scrutiny certainly has increased as well, and the time that the responsibility takes is probably pretty significant too.
We're going into New Year. So far, the economic news has not been great, not only provincially, but across the country and internationally. We just don't seem to be able to get the traction needed to pull everyone out of the recession. How is that impacting you, your decisions, and even some of the promises you made during the campaign?
Sure. Look, the Prime Minister was recently in St. John, and the Prime Minister talked about how in Canada, if we look at how we've weathered the storm as a whole in relationship to the rest of the world, we've been pretty fortunate. But big picture in Canada, it's still very fragile. And I would say that much more fragile in New Brunswick. Early on, it didn't seem that New Brunswick was being that impacted, but I think we've seen over the last year pretty significant impacts. We've trailed the rest of the country in job growth. In fact, we've seen our unemployment rate continue to increase. A huge deficit that is really being held over everybody's head and increased in debt. So for us, I think there's the pretty stark reality of what we're trying to deal with as a government. Being very realistic and responsible as we go forward, and starting that dialogue with New Brunswickers on having to come to grips with the financial situation. At the same time, wanting to come forward with really the mandate that the people of New Brunswick gave us, and so that's a balancing act that we have. We take it very seriously. Certainly, that fiscal challenge that is looming, that is being held over everybody's head, is something we've got to come to grips with, and every New Brunswicker, as the Minister of Finance has said in the past, has to be part of the solution.
Are there tax hikes in the future, in the very near future?
Look, what we've said during the campaign, I have no stomach for increasing the HST. I believe in low taxes. That is something that I believe helps stimulate the economy. As the finance minister goes forward, he'll be having a dialogue with New Brunswickers. We'll see what New Brunswickers have to say. Certainly, increasing taxes are at the bottom of my priority list. What we have said is there are a number of personal income taxes and corporate tax reductions that the previous government had announced late in their mandate. We don't believe we can afford to go forward with a number of those right now, so we will be looking to not move in that direction.
Speaking of tax increases, residents in St. John are looking at the possibility of as much as a 13-cent increase on their property taxes, due in a large part to the deficit they're facing with the Civic Pension Fund. They are asking the provincial government for legislation to make some changes. Have you received any formal request yet, and are you prepared to act to help the city with that issue?
I have not myself been involved in anything up to this point in time. Now, whether those discussions have started with other, with ministries, that's another question that someone else would need to answer. And it'd be very difficult for me to comment one way or the other until we see what the issue is that we're facing.
Let's look at it in a broader scheme, and that is the Taxpayers Federation, for example, is suggesting that public service pension defined benefit pension plans are not sustainable in the future, and that it's time for governments to have a look at those pension plans. Is that one of the issues you will be addressing somewhere down the road as part of your efforts to fight the deficit?
Look, I don't know that it's an effort in fighting the deficit. What we have said during the campaign, and we've actually announced as part of our 10 and 10, that we would be moving forward looking at both private pensions, public pensions, to ensure that they are there for the people long term, that people are protected. And so that announcement, we've already made the announcement specifically on the private pension side. The individuals who are going to drive it have already been announced, and they're at work.
Speaking of people at work, you do have a committee or a commission looking at energy policies across the province. In the meantime, what's happening with the energy department? You have a number of people involved in policy making and what have you, and a minister. Are they just sort of treading water until such time as you do get some feedback from your commission?
Absolutely not. And in fact, they're providing some of the support for the commissioners to do their work. Outstanding employees at the energy, as part of the energy department. Minister Leonard is doing an excellent job. He's an outstanding MLA and new minister. He's learning very quickly. And look, the energy sector doesn't sit still, and we knew that going in. That's why we completed a lot of work before the election. It was a document called the Path Forward that really set the tone for the commissioners to do their work in a very short time period, over 6 months. They've been meeting with groups and organizations since early this fall. And they'll be going out in public meetings after Christmas and coming forward this spring with recommendations. So I look forward to receiving it, but certainly the staff at the Department of Energy are providing good support to the work they do.
Now, the dream of the Energy Hub in St. John seems to have, I won't say faded, but it seems to have stagnated somewhat. Is your government prepared to support that whole concept and start moving forward and even looking at other alternatives as far as energy is concerned?
Well, I certainly believe in the concept of the Energy Hub. And, I think one of the things, certainly there's been a lot of focus on St. John as the Energy Hub. New Brunswick has an opportunity to really be an energy hub, and we need to take advantage of our location, and the fact that we really are a hub in this region. The opportunity on things like transmission, which could really benefit the southern part of the province, including St. John. We look at getting LaPro operational again. Is certainly key to Greater St. John area, and it's a key to New Brunswick, the operation of Colson Cove. And I know Nova Scotia's really moved forward, especially on some of the tidal opportunities. That will provide opportunity in the future. And if I know there's a lot of discussion and debate on shale gas right now and what that means for the whole southern part of the province. And St. John certainly has opportunity to benefit there. So I don't think in any way that the Energy Hub is dead. I think the work of the Energy Commission, so we really do have a long-term vision, is very important. But working strategically within our region as well and taking advantage of where we are will be very important as well.
Speaking of LaPro, you met with the Prime Minister following the Harbour Bridge announcement about 3 weeks ago. You indicated you were going to get back to the Prime Minister with some additional information regarding the LaPro upgrade and the AECL contracts, what have you. Have you done that, and have you heard back from the PMO?
Well, it's a complex process, and MB Power certainly is gathering information. That, as far as I'm aware, that information hasn't gone back up to this point in time. We continue to focus on ensuring that LaPro, we don't see further delays in the completion of it. My understanding is the taking the tubes out, that process is gone and is going very well, and so we continue to provide that focus. Actually, very shortly, you're going to see a committee of the legislature struck that will provide, again, a higher level of transparency so that New Brunswickers really know what's going on and why things have been done the way they have been, and really provide another level of accountability to the taxpayers of the province.
What is the one thing that you would say to people in the Greater St. John region as we head into the holiday period and the new year?
Look, my first comment is just Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. We are so blessed as a province, and I know very often we don't really take into consideration just how fortunate we are. And I just want to convey to all the people of Greater St. John to enjoy time with family and friends during this holiday season. Certainly as well the importance of focusing and supporting those who are more in need than we are. And I know how giving the people of Greater St. John are. Just last week I had a chance to be down there when Wayne and Walter Gretzky were in town, and just a tremendous amount of money was raised for both the Empty Stocking Fund and Romero House, two very, very outstanding organizations that do great work in southern New Brunswick. And look, we've got some huge challenges going forward as a province. I think everybody is realizing that. The Minister of Finance, who comes from represents the Quispam-Sis area, he's going to be going forward after Christmas with a dialogue with New Brunswickers. I want to encourage people in Greater St. John to get involved, come forward with their ideas on how we can, really do things more effectively and efficiently. How we can start to get the ship upright again, because we can't go on like it's been.